Hello, everyone. So good to see you. Thank you so much. A lot of you come back every week. I appreciate your support and your comments on YouTube. Do you ever feel like a weirdo? Do you feel like you don't fit in with the mainstream, that the values of your family, your school, perhaps your religion, the corporate world don't really fit you? Well, if you do, I have some good news for you. What you thought was wrong with you may be what's right with you. I want to remind you that A Course in Miracles tells us that this world is inside out and upside down when it comes to truth. That much of the world has taken what is and twisted it into something else, and like the emperor's new clothes, made it seem like illusions are real when they are not. So today, let's explore how some of the things you may have been judged about or judged yourself about are actually assets. A lot of you may know Dave Barry. He's a wonderful humor writer, been around for a long time. He's very popular, very funny guy. And as a teenager, he was a class clown. He made lots of jokes, and he spent a lot of his time in the hallway of the principal's office. And one day his middle school teacher told him, Dave Barry, you better get serious. You're never going to make any money being funny. Well, guess what? He's gone on to be one of the funniest men in America. He has a Pulitzer Prize book. His column has been in many, many newspapers every week. And he's made a fabulous living being funny. So what he thought was wrong with him was really what was right with him. And I want to say the same thing is true about you. And people who are great rarely fit into the mold of how they should be living. For example, do you know what Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Michael Dell all have in common, the three great computer magnates? None of them ever finished college. Jobs dropped out and studied calligraphy, which became the platform from which he developed fonts, scalable fonts on the Apple computer. We all know what Michael Dell did, and so did Bill Gates. And so if these people had pandered to their parents' pressures to stay in college and get a degree, they didn't need to do that. In fact, Michael Dell dropped out of college and started building computers in his dormitory room. That's how Dell Computers got started. Now many people are Dellionaires because of him. And so isn't it wonderful that these people chose not to follow the mainstream and be part of a greater stream? These were world change agents who did not conform to the standards set for them by others. And if you read Steve Jobs' biography, I mean, he was a pretty intense guy. He alienated people, and he didn't have good personal hygiene. People complained around his body odor, and so he had these things that were not right about him. But meanwhile, he was one of the greatest creative geniuses of all time. And if you don't believe me, look in your pocket, see if you have something called an iPhone or an iPad or an Apple computer. I mean, he was weird in one way, but absolutely magnificently genius in another way. Nikola Tesla, one of my role models, my heroes, he was a very quirky guy. He didn't like to shake hands with people. This is just long before COVID. He was afraid of pearls, like he stayed away from women wearing pearls. He had this obsession with the number 3, and he would walk around the block 3 times before he went to his hotel room. He never had a relationship with women, as far as it's known. And he was not gay either. He He just did not look for a human intimate relationship. And but he did fall in love with a pigeon. He lived in this hotel in Manhattan, and these several pigeons every day would come to his windowsill, and he had developed this very intimate relationship with one of these pigeons. And the idea is that he needed some form of connection. He didn't have a relationship with a man or a woman, but animals are innocent, and that was his idea of connecting with a living being. So we can make fun of him and fault him for these quirks, and yet he invented X-rays. He invented wireless communications. He discovered and adapted AC electricity. So every time you plug any of your appliances into a socket, you can thank Nikola Tesla. He developed the fluorescent light, and he also invented the radio. You and I were taught that Marconi invented the radio, but no, it was Nikola Tesla. And in the 1940s, the US Supreme Court reversed the patent that was given to Marconi, and they gave it to Nikola Tesla. So this weird guy who didn't fit into society's norms actually is responsible for much of the world that we live in today. If you use a wireless technology of any kind, your phone, your computer, your router, thank Nikola Tesla, who loved a pigeon. So go figure. Albert Einstein did not wear socks. He was prone to just break out his violin while walking on the street, and he would occasionally pluck a grasshopper and eat it. Now, if any of these people went to a psychologist or psychiatrist, they would probably be diagnosed with some kind of aberrant issue. And last week in our weekly wave, we talked about growing beyond labels. And if you would try to stuff these people in a societal label, you couldn't. Or they would have received a negative, pejorative label, but they had greatness within them. Einstein was told he would never make anything of himself. He didn't speak until he was 4 or 5 years old. And Thomas Edison was labeled addled as a child, confused. So, they were not functioning well in society, but they were functioning brilliantly in a greater plane. So if you don't fit in, I would say that's a compliment. There's a book that came out years ago by Paul Ray and Sherry Ruth Anderson called The Cultural Creatives, How 50 Million People Are Changing the World, something like that. And they identified a segment. Now, this was 2001, right? So they were 50 million then. How many are there more now? They identified people who did not fit in and yet were bringing gifts and transformations and upgrades to the world that, quote, normal people weren't. They called them cultural creatives. They didn't go to the same churches, the same schools. They had different careers. They didn't follow a 9-to-5 routine. They didn't have families like the rest of people do. They chose unconventional partnerships and relationships and marriages. And they said, these are people who are world change agents because, who wrote a book called, said, the world has rarely been changed by well-behaved women. You say the same for men, not just unwell-behaved women, but anybody who's unwell behaved is thinking in a different way. They are gravitating to a different vibrational field. They are using a different kind of vision, a different kind of perspective, and they see things that other people do not see because they have not gotten into the rut of traditional thinking that most people have succumbed to. Someone said that a rut is simply a grave with the ends knocked out. So, even from day one, we are programmed to do the right thing according to other people's standards. A friend of mine sent her child to kindergarten for the first day, and he came home crying. What happened? Well, the teacher passed out a coloring page, and there was a clown on it, and I drew a green nose on the clown. And she scolded me. She says, "Don't you know that clowns have red noses?" Well, why not have a green nose on a clown? Who made up the rule that all clowns have to have red noses? So I'd like you to go back and think about what you've been told about who you should be that grates against who you are. And probably at some point, some young age, you made a decision either that you would fall into line and it didn't quite work, or you refused to fall into line and you were criticized, perhaps ostracized. You know, religions shun people that don't play the game. One of my friends was in a very oppressive religion, and it was a cult, really. It was a big famous religion. I won't name it, but it was a big famous religion. And he escaped it. And the muscle that he built, the spiritual energy that he built to move away from this religion, in spite of huge family and community pressure, gave him strength he never would have gotten if he had just towed the line in this religion that tries to scare people to stay. And now he's become a coach and a mentor to people who are wishing to break away from that religion, but have fears and resistance to it. He is kind of massaging their progress so they can break away and start a new life without this oppressive religion breathing down their neck at every turn and dictating who they should marry and how many children they should have and what food they should eat, what clothing they should wear. I mean, this is all oppressive stuff. If you do it and you like it, that's one thing, that's just fine. But, you know, fear is not a great religion, not reason to do a religion. It's not a great reason to do anything. So you might want to consider, what have I given into that does not match my soul? And if I were true to my soul, what would I be doing differently? Ram Dass used to tell a very funny story about a man who went to Zumbak the tailor. The story goes that Zumbak fitted him for a suit of clothes, and as he's testing it in the mirror after the tailoring, he said, "Well, you know, Zumbak, this sleeve is a little short. Can you please lengthen the sleeve?" Zumbak says, "No, your arm is too long. Just pull your arm in a little bit." And I said, "Well, fine." He says, "Yeah, that's cool. But now the nape of the collar is up, so it's sticking out behind my neck." And Zumbak said, "No, your neck is too low. Put your collar up like this." He says, "Well, now my back is all no. The suit is fine. Just hunch your back a little." So Zumbak convinces this man that this suit fits him when it doesn't, and he's all contorted. And he walks out on the street, and these two women pass him, and one says, "Yeah, look at that poor crippled guy." And the other woman says, "Yeah, but the suit fits great." So the idea is that, you know, we have been prescribed suits by external authorities, and you've been told if you could just fit yourself into that suit, you'll be cool, you'll be cruising. And a lot of us have tried that, and it hasn't worked. We have tried to fit ourselves into relationships and marriages that don't belong to us, and they don't work. We've tried to take careers that are passionless and lifeless. And I love that word buzzkill. Have you heard that word buzzkill? We take jobs that are a buzzkill. We engage in conversations and go to family gatherings and quote meetings of friends that are buzzkills, and we walk away from, oh, why do I feel nauseous, and why do I feel tired, and why do I feel bugged? Well, it's because you were participating in a conversation or a social gathering or an event that undermined your life force. It didn't belong to you. It wasn't yours. It was not a match. It was not yours by right of consciousness. So I want to encourage you to live the life that matches who you really are instead of who you're supposed to be. Would it not be a horrible feeling to come to the end of your life and realize you had lived someone else's life? There's a beautiful Jewish story about a very famous Hasidic rabbi named Rabbi Zusha. And the story goes that he's at the end of his life and he's on his deathbed and he's weeping. And his disciples say, Rabbi Zusha, why are you crying? If you're going to go on to the next world, if anybody is assured of a place in heaven, it's you. You're one of the great sages and righteous people of our time. He said, well, I'll tell you why I'm crying, my friends. He said, if when I get to the gates of heaven, they ask me, why did you not do what Moses did? Why did you not perform the miracles of Moses? I'll say, because those were Moses's miracles to perform. And if they ask me, why didn't you give prophecies like Elijah? I'll say, because those were Elijah's prophecies, not mine. He said, the only thing I fear is to come to the gates of heaven and be asked, why were you not a Rabbi Zusha? Why did you not live the life that you were born to live, independent of the life that anybody else was born to live? That's the only question you really need to answer. And so please don't wait until you get to the pearly gates to try to explain why you didn't live the life you were born to live. You still have much life to live. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. You still have your life ahead of you. There is time on this planet for you to shine and be who you are and deliver your unique gifts. Don't delay, don't excuse, don't apologize. Einstein did not apologize. Tesla did not apologize. Jobs did not apologize. These men lived their lives as whole, independent, creative, organic thinking people. And if you're smart, if you're the genius that you are, and everybody's a genius in one way or another, you will live the life that was given to you, not by society, not by religion, not by family, not by your neighborhood, but by God. And how do you know which life God wants you to live? The one that you're most passionate about. You want to do the opposite of a buzzkill. You want to do a buzz enhanced life. You want to wake up in the morning and say, okay, where does my passion live today? Where would you have me go today, Great Spirit, by virtue of the guiding light of joy? Where does my joy lead me today? And then do your joy first when you can. Don't wait till the end of the day when you're too tired, or the weekend or the weeknight, or when you keep postponing your joy, it just keeps getting postponed, and then it's crowded out by all the stuff that you have to do. Now we all have to do stuff, do what you have to do. But at first opportunity, do what brings you life. And you've heard me say, I only have two commandments. I kind of, people have a short attention span, so we're boiling them down for 10. 2 commandments. Do what brings you life and quit doing what deadens you. And every day, the first thing when I get up, I meditate, I do my Course in Miracles lesson, I walk my dog, which is fun, and I do my writing. I sit down and I do my creative writing for half an hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes more. I get in the good stuff before I get to the stuff that I consider obligations. I do my emails and phone calls and errands and blah, blah, blah. But at least I know I've done the fun stuff and I've sparked my day. I've ignited my day with my passion, and everything that happens after that is an afterthought. So there are thoughts and there are afterthoughts. Be sure you don't live your afterthought first, because then you might never get to your thought. So how's that for a nugget of wisdom? Okay, just before we close, I do want to remind you a couple of cool things I got coming up. One is we have life coach training starting in September. I'm not sure if we have openings for that, but we do have openings for the one that starts in January. You become a professional, certified, holistic life coach. Nothing, no better profession I can see on the planet. If it speaks to you, come with me. Starting at the end of September, we're doing an 8-week live interactive webinar series called Friends in High Places, Navigating Interdimensional Guidance and Cultivating Channeling, Psychic Gifts, communication with people on the other side, very high integrity, no spooky stuff, all high integrity spiritual tools to make the next world be as real to you as this world. And finally, in December, I'm doing a 4-day retreat with my dear friend Karen Drucker, an amazing musician in California. So please join me. Go to alancohen.com. Love to see you for any or all of those activities. I always like to close with a prayer and intention. So if you'd like to close your eyes for a moment. And I'd like you to, we're doing asking prayer today. There's different kinds of prayers. Sometimes they're affirmative, sometimes they're visualizing, but today's an asking prayer. Great Spirit, help me to live the life that I came to live. I am now, we're moving to affirmation now, I am open and willing to follow the passion of my heart and deliver my unique gifts to the world. I no longer agree to live the life that others would prescribe for me, and I agree only to live the life that Great Spirit, my heart, the God in me, prescribes for me. I am willing to be weird. I am willing to be unconventional. I am willing to follow paths that no one has ever followed before. I am willing to carve my own unique path if necessary. I am willing to be a master soul instead of a student. I'm willing to be a finder instead of a seeker. I'm willing to source my life from deep inside me instead of somewhere way outside me. So I am willing. I declare my willingness. I declare my openness. I declare my intention. And now I ask for help from the universe to present me with opportunities, events, relationships, connection that can further what I came to do on earth, which is to be myself. And that's all God ever asked of me. That's all God will ever be and do. And I say, thank you, God, for making me unique. I will now live up to my uniqueness and bless the world with my true self. If you care to say with me out loud, and so it is, and so it is.